So many people are making these Apple style edits and making thousands of dollars off it. The thing is, with a few basic animations, you can do the same. Today we'll be recreating this reel from Dnyxstudios. Okay, so we're just going to get straight into it. So opening up After Effects and creating a new composition, 1080 by 1080. So we'll create the background first, and that's just by going up here, layer, new solid, adding a gradient ramp because the white isn't a perfect white. Drag out the frame from here to something like that, and the black change it to a white. Now the first scene is the logo comes down alongside the stocks writing. So we're just going to create that in After Effects now. So I've just taken this icon from Google, but as I said in the last video, some of these icons are copyright. So you just want to make sure that you're getting the right ones or paying for the ones that you do get. Otherwise, later on it becomes a problem. So make sure it's 3D and position it to where you want it to finish, around here. Go a few frames forward, keyframe the position. Go back to the first frame and go up on the Y scale. Select both F9. Open up the graph. And make a graph something like that. So now we'll just do the same for the text. Always make sure to center the anchor point. That's using Control, Alt, and Home. And we'll do the same with the position keyframes. But for the text, we'll just start it a little bit later. F9 for the keyframes again, and we'll just do the same thing we did last. Now the opacity also has to be keyframe, so we'll just do that. Go to the start of the composition for the stocks and go a little bit forward. Halfway throughout the transition, we want to make the opacity 100. Keyframe for the position, go to 0. Halfway down, go to 100, just like that. Yep, so now to get the next movement where the stocks and the icon go up and then move out of screen, we're just going to use a couple of null objects. So layer new null object, make it 3D, and pick up both of the layers to the null object. So go to when the icon starts slowing down and put a keyframe. A few frames forward and change the Y scale to a little bit higher, like that. Select both F9. And the ordinary graph should be just fine. Make a new null object. Link this previous one to this one. And about halfway down the old one, you want to keyframe and then go a little bit forward and go all the way out of screen. Play it back now. Yeah, so the down movement is a little bit too fast, so we're going to drag out the keyframe a little bit. As you can see, it doesn't really look the best, so we're just going to play with the graph a little bit. I'm actually going to bring this one to start a little bit closer, so more towards the halfway point of the other null object. And now I think it looks pretty good. Now we're just going to keyframe the opacity out, so once the icon and the stocks writing go a little bit, start going down, and then we're just going to keyframe them so the opacity disappears. Make sure to create 100 opacity keyframes so that they don't disappear like slowly. So just around here at the top, you want to keyframe, leave that at 100, and then go a little bit forward and go to 0. So for the next part of the animation, we've got a box that appears and then writing that comes over it. So that's quite easy. Camera also zooms in, so we're just going to create a new camera. Firstly, layer new camera, default settings are fine, and then create a null object. link the camera to the null object, and keyframe the position to when the stocks and the icon come down, and then go quite a bit forward and zoom in slowly. Something like 500 should be fine. Now, using the rounded rectangle tool, we're going to create that little box that appears. Turning off the fill and the stroke to a lighter gray. We're just going to create that. Center the anchor point and turn the stroke down to something like 5. We'll start with 5. Make it 3D, turn on motion blur. You can make it a little bit smaller, so just scaling it down. Now we're going to keyframe this downwards so it comes down with the stocks writing and stuff. So go to the part where the stocks writing starts to come down, keyframe it, and push it a little bit up using the Y scale. Both and add a bounce, so we're just going to make the amplitudes 35 and the decay something like 6. Keyframe at 100 just past the first position keyframe, and then come to before the last keyframe and opacity 100. So 0 to 100 looks like that. Looks pretty good. Now for the text, we're just going to write new, make it 3D, and essentially repeat the process, but this time we're just going to link it to the shape layer. So come to the end, otherwise it's not going to work. So come to the end of the animation and then link it to the shape layer, otherwise it will just stay out of line the whole time. Yep. So now we're going to do its own animation. We're going to change the position. So just go to this point of the other shape layer's keyframes and do the same thing. So maybe changing the position a little bit higher at the start and adding a bounce using the same numbers. Also keyframe the opacity in like the same as the shape layer. Now it looks pretty good. The next part is where the cursor comes up and kind of clicks this new button as per se. So we're going to add a new cursor. So go a little bit forward and keyframe the position of the cursor to something just below the right side, like here. And then go a little bit forward and go back up. So kind of like a click of the button. And change the graph to something like that. Now we're going to keyframe the opacity in as well. So 0 just past the first position keyframe, and then 100 a little bit further down. And for the little bounce, we're going to keyframe only the shape layer, so the Z rotation of the shape layer, because the text is linked already. So as the cursor comes up, we're going to press the keyframe and go to when the cursor meets, and go with a little bit of a bounce, so a Z rotation of around -12 degrees will do. Again, F9. And this is where the bounce is going to happen, so we're going to actually come back down to the original one. So copy the first keyframe and paste it just a little bit forward past the other. So make a double keyframe just to hold that position of the shape layer, and then keyframe the position of the cursor as well, because we want it to come down with the button. Otherwise it just looks like it's staying there for no reason. Basically bring the cursor down with the shape layer, and that looks pretty good. Now the next part is a slight movement to the left, and then it comes back to the original with a little zoomed in POV. So for that, we're just going to link the camera's null object to another null object, making it 3D. We're just going to do that. And we want to start the movement, so position keyframe clicked just as the cursor and the box to come down. Go quite a bit forward and drag it to the right. We're going to F9 and make a graph that looks like this so that the transition starts slow, and by the end of it, we'll have moved to the next one. So like that. And now for the next part, lay a new null object again. And the position and scale we're actually going to change. So we're going to keyframe them like towards the end of the transition and go one frame forward and keyframe them again. I'm going to go to the first side, the first keyframes, and toggle whole keyframe so that there's no like motion blur kind of weird transition when this occurs. So we're going to go back to the original spot and kind of zoom in just like that. Now there's going to be a slight zoom out, so we're just going to create a new null object for that as well. So come to the keyframe that we toggle holded and position, go a little bit further and then zoom out just a tiny bit, F9, and we're actually even going to drag out the keyframes even further so the final keyframe can go even further. Now for the illusion of the button being pressed, all we have to do is keyframe the scale of the cursor. So we're just going to go to a little bit before the toggle hold keyframe and keyframe the scale and make it a lot larger like that. F9, and then go forward and make it back to the original, so that's like the pressing of the button. So at the peak of the transition, we're going to cut everything out. So around here, we're going to cut all of the objects out. And because everything's a little bit messed up, we can actually cut out the camera and all the null objects and essentially start from zero again, because we've just got an empty screen and that was the result of the transition. Just going to select everything and cut it out at this point. So the next part is this little black square comes and then writing comes, just fades in. So we're going to do that now. Starting with just getting the scene ready. So a rectangle, rounded rectangle with the fill black and no stroke. Just going to create it perfectly. So that's by holding shift down, it's going to create a perfect square. Again, I'm going to link all of these to the shape layer, just because once we do add movement, they're going to have to stay in the same proximity. So we're not going to worry about the text just yet, and we're just going to keyframe the movement of the black shape layer. Position and Z rotation. We're actually going to drag these out a little bit further so that we want it to finish at a perfect in the center with no other movement. So just something like that. Then I'm going to go to the first keyframe, drag it down, and now I'm going to keyframe the opacity and the position of these ticks and arrows. So I'm just going to make the top ones come in first and then the bottom ones come in last. I'm going to add a bounce to them as well. This bounce is going to be very minor, so we're going to actually change the amplitude to something like 20 and the decay to something like 8. So we're going to try to achieve kind of a parallax effect by moving the keyframes just a little bit to the side for the arrows compared to the ticks, just so it doesn't look all uniform and coming down at the same exact time. Now I'm just going to keyframe the opacity. These can be the same for the ticks and the arrows. It doesn't really matter. So just starting with the top one, we're going to keyframe the opacities. So I've just done the keyframes for the opacity, just making sure that they come in time by time. So the next part is the black background will kind of warp out, and we'll pick one of them. So we'll pick the Tesla stock to make a little information sector about, and the other ones will just disappear up and down. So we'll do that now. Make sure whatever you do for one of the shape layers, you do for the other one. So we're just going to link the matte layer to the one below it, so the main black layer. Go under contents, rectangle and rectangle path. We're going to keyframe the size. So I'm just going to keyframe the size and the roundness. So when the wobbling kind of stops, we're going to keyframe it and go a little bit forward and unlinking the size linker, so like it will go larger that way before it goes that way. We're going to drag it out, making it something like that, and actually making it smaller on the y-axis, just slightly. We'll actually bring the keyframe in closer, otherwise it looks just too slow. Now we're going to keyframe the Tesla and the arrow next to it. Just move them to the left a little bit. So as soon as the warping starts, we're going to keyframe the position of the Tesla and the arrow. And we're going to move the bottom and the top text just out of frame. We're just going to do the exact same thing. So keyframing the position of these little objects that we're going to add, and the opacity as well, so that they fade. For this little graph, I'm actually going to add a mask around it and kind of increase the feathering so that it doesn't look too odd. And we'll just add a little bit of writing as well. So I've just linked these the text layer as well to the black background, just so it doesn't look like the odd one out, and it kind of moves along with the text and the other objects that we've added into this composition. And the next part is a slow zoom out and the rotation of the shape, and then a morph into the little square that he used. As well as that, the text and the objects will disappear, so we'll just do that now in After Effects. This part's a bit hard, so I've put on my glasses. So just keyframing all of these and going a little bit further forward. And we're going to decrease the size to something like that. And the rotation is going to be quite a lot as well. So something like that. For this, we can even F9 for the keyframes and drag the keyframes out even further. And when the movement starts to happen, you want to cut out all of the stuff that was inside. And what I would do just to mask the roughness is I would add a layer, new adjustment layer. And go towards when the rotation starts happening and add a little glitch effect. So BCC video glitch. If you don't have BCC, I'd highly recommend it. It's not, I'm not going to say it's like necessary, but it's quite useful to have when you want to add like glitches and flickers, all of that kind of special effects kind of stuff. Increase the intensity to something like 80 and the interval decrease it to something like 5. We're going to delete it after the stuff disappears anyway, so we're just going to create a little adjustment layer like that. Now it kind of masks the roughness effect. And now we've achieved all of the effects. If you want to actually make an edit, you're going to have to be a little bit smoother with things, but we've just done this for a rough edit, so yeah. And if you guys do want the assets that I used, just ask me to create a Discord server. So I'll do that and you guys can have the assets just for tutorial sake. And comment what tutorial I should do next.